Hi, everybody. Welcome to Second Monday. Yay, we're so glad you're here. This is a great turnout. And let me pull this off of here. We'll start by introducing ourselves. We are members of the Board of Music Portland, and one of us is a former member of Board of Music Oregon, and now works for Councilor Jamie Dunphy at the City Hall. That's Eben right there. I'll introduce myself first. I am Kate O'Brien. I am the board president of Music Portland, and I'm in a little band called Linton Barrel Company, and a singer, songwriter, sometimes terrible guitar player, and I'm really excited about the direction that we're going. Here's Anthony.
Great to meet you, Kate. My name's Anthony Massano. I am the secretary of Music Portland, and I'm also the treasurer of Music Oregon, and then also the secretary of Music Oregon. A lot of roles. But I've been with the organization the last few years, and it has been an incredible experience, and just to see the community come together as we have been is just breathtaking. I was there since the beginning in 2018, and watching this organization and community evolve is really something. I myself play in a band, Tito Padrino. We're a volcanic rock band, that's what we call ourselves. Right? It's all about marketing. If there's one thing I've learned in the music business, marketing, baby, that's what it's all about. Right. So I'm in the pit with pretty much all of you, and trying to grow the music and be a part of the community and share art and all of that. So with all that said, that's who I am, and I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Eben.
Hi, I'm Eben. I'm going to do all of the jobs for fun. I'm Eben Hoffer. I'm from Portland. Hi, I grew up over there, and then later I grew up over there. I am the Music and Arts Policy Advisor for City Councilor Jamie Dunphy on a part-time basis. When I'm not there, I'm tour manager and production manager for Esperanza Spalding and the technical director for Livewire Radio in town, and I play guitar and sing. I got involved with Music Portland by going to a Zoom meeting in 2020 with then City Commissioner Chloe U. Daly about what we could do about political changes for music and the arts in town. And 5 years later, that is also technically what is happening right now, except Chloe's not here. So glad to be here. Let's do good stuff.
Greetings, I'm Derek Trost. Among the many hats I wear, drummer, recording studio designer, live music venue designer, and I also sit on both boards for the time being before we go through our magic combining trick.
We play accordion. Can you have an accordion collection?
True. Primarily a drummer. I also play guitar and write songs, and anything that gets hit, I play a lot. Marimba, vibraphone, etc. But yeah, mostly here tonight as an enthusiastic participant in this mental illness that we all share, leaning into the arts, specifically music. Mara McLaughlin is, like all of us, I am someone that she ensnared and brought into this fabulous pool of talented and intelligent people trying to make a difference in our community. And still here trying to figure out how to do that and cooperate accordingly.
You sit on the noise review board.
Oh, yes, I do. If you know what the noise review board is, probably not. We deal with sound complaint issues in Portland, but also giving out variances for anything from music festivals to commercial construction activities, but we're trying to make big changes on that front, getting accommodations for musicians and music-related noisemaking, which, as we all know, is a thing in our city, in order to get the accommodations that, for instance, construction has equally valuable for different reasons. And we need to make noise in our city, and we need accommodations for that to happen. So that's yet another tangle to this mess. You have your own mic.
I have my own mic.
I'm giving this back to Kate.
Hey, everybody. I'm Tim Wilson. I am the board president of MusicOregon and a board member of Music Portland. And I have a small artist management practice called Starlit Farm, and it's a long story about how I got that name. But I've spent most of my career in artist development, working in public arts agencies, helping to develop artists. And in the last 25 years, I was at Western Arts Alliance, which is a performing arts market that connects artists to university performing arts centers across the Western United States, which is different from NACA, because this is more for concert halls and concert stages. So now I left there a couple of years ago and started this agency, and my clients are kind of spread out across the United States. I want to thank you all for coming. We're going to, as we've already been talking about, and you may have read, that we are in the process of merging the two organizations. And this work and this community will not go away, but Music Portland will become a program of MusicOregon. So it will continue to exist. But we think we'll have the best of both worlds, because up till now, even in the present moment, this is Music Portland is a 501c6, which is a trade association, which is barred by the IRS from receiving grants. So Music Portland cannot receive grants for the work that it does. So rather than having two boards and two sets of books and staff split between two organizations, the board decided over a process that took about a year to kind of merge the organizations. And so we're hoping to complete this merge. We're planning to complete this merge by the end of this calendar year, and we're going through the process right now. And we don't want to bore you about the process, because it's kind of technical and tedious. It's not anything very interesting. But what it means is the organizations and the community is kind of in a state of flux. Not only have we lost our founder, Mira, who was a dynamo, and I think we all want to acknowledge kind of her work that led us to this place. But we're going through other changes and trying to anticipate, sort of, kind of figure out, like, what do you all need? What's the community need? What does Oregon need to better support music, not only here, but across the state? Because we see that sort of musicians in the outlying communities and producers and recording engineers that might have studios kind of out beyond Portland, sort of their work intersects with the work that all of you do. So we really want to strengthen this network and strengthen the work of Music Portland and MusicOregon to combine and kind of create a synergy between these efforts, and sort of unifying and simplifying our structure to be able to support the entire state in a better way. So our purpose here tonight is just talk a little bit about this. We're gonna split it up. Kate and I will sort of moderate, and we're gonna give a few short introductory comments, and then really what we want to do is, as quickly as we can, sort of open it up to questions and concerns or aspirations that you might have, or things that you'd like to see from the combined organization. So this is really truly a forum, so it should be more kind of interactive than presentational. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Kate.
Okay, hi. So I want to talk a little bit about what's not going away. So First Mondays are not going away. The Music Policy Council is not going away, although we're trying to figure out how it fits in under the nonprofit, or if it needs to be its own adjacent thing, and we work on stuff together. All of our cool programs like City Sessions will come back. PDX Music Month, did anybody here play at City Sessions, or were they engineer sound people for City Sessions or Portland Music Month? Renee? City Sessions was a program that happened in 2024, summer of 2024, and it was really a success, and it can be a bigger success. But we took over different plazas and stuff that with PBOT that they gave us permits and stuff, and we had funding from the city and private funders to basically make sure all of the artists and the tech of each show was paid a fair wage. And it was really successful, and people were stoked, and it brought people out into our common places in the city. That's not going away, but it will be on pause. PDX Music Month has traditionally been January, and it may come back as January, it may be March, but it's sort of, the idea is that it'll help bring fans and artists together in venues during slow months, and a little bit of that money goes back to support our Echo Fund, which the Echo Fund is actually happening right now. Applications closed.
Yeah, they closed on Monday, and we had 245 applications, and we have, thanks to the good work of the city of Portland, we had an extra like $20,000 to give this year, so we have more money.
Yep.
And for those of you that applied, there's less competition. Our applications are down slightly from the prior year.
Yeah.
So,
So the Echo Fund's going strong, and that will continue to go strong. Let's see, a city session, there's a music, so here's the thing. Some of these things started in Music Portland, and then they became a program of Music Oregon. And that's because the charitable organization thing, which is why, and it's confusing because people don't know the difference, and lots of people don't know that Music Oregon exists. So that's where a lot of the impetus for this change has kind of come from, is a little bit of a branding thing. Like, if people know that it's Music Portland, they associate Music Portland, but we can get more money and pay our staff and grow and all of that, then no problem, as long as we're preserving what we do. So, and we can expand out into other cities. There could be a Music Bend or a Music Fossil, whatever these cities might be. So that's kind of in the long-range plan. What other programs am I thinking about?
well,
Music Business Incubator was a entrepreneurial program for BIPOC women, and with mentorship and everything to create business plans and get some funding to get those started. Any other programs I'm forgetting? That's basically it. So none of those are going away. And what we want to do is add things, and a lot more things where we can actually bring more people together at nights like tonight, and even in a bigger way. And we also are looking at things like having some sort of a online forum or message board or something where people can be like, hey, I'm selling my amp, or hey, I'm looking to join a doo-wop group, or something like that.
hey, I need a new drummer.
Hey, I need a new drummer, or. So doing a lot more things like that are sort of cultivating community and experimenting with how that would work. Those are things that we are looking at doing as well. But mostly we want to hear from you guys and the greater community about what your ideas are. Next to the door on the way in, there's like a Post-it board, there's Post-its and a whiteboard, and then there's a suggestion box. If you want to be quiet about it, you put it in the little basket. But we're kind of starting this conversation tonight, getting people to tell us what they want so that we can see how we can create programming around that. What else am I supposed to talk about?
I want to thank Artichoke for having us.
Artichoke's
Yes.
awesome.
We're really glad to be here. Part of the Music Monday thing is to get us out in the community in various places where maybe you have never been, but also to bring our business here and realize what a cool venue this is, to both as a performer and as an audience member. It's a really unusually quiet and well-curated place that has tasty things to drink and some snacks.
And the sound's great. You don't even have a mic, and you've got your soft-spoken guy.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place. Thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
And I don't know who's running tech tonight, but thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Leah's doing everything.
Yep.
Leah, could we get the house lights up while we're kind of into the more back and forth space?
Yeah. Artichoke is also a 501c3 nonprofit. So that's a kind of a fitting.
Store, consignment.
What's that?
A school, and we have a consignment.
And a school and the consignment shop. Right, exactly. So that's a fitting place for us to have this conversation.
Can I just add something
Yeah.
real quick? So I'm a finance nerd by day, if you can't tell.
Just by day.
Yeah, I know, right? So I do just want to speak real quick about differences on 501c6, 501c3. The main thing is that when you donate to a 501c3, that is deductible on your taxes. Hey, that's cool, right? again, just me being a finance nerd, it's nice to know because when you donate, you're not only helping organizations like this, you're also kind of helping yourself too, and it's an incentive to do so. The 501c6 gets a little tricky where, and I don't think many people knew this on the Music Portland side, but technically you're business owners, so you're like sole props, or if you're an LLC or whatnot. I'm not gonna get too deep in the weeds, but the difference is that you could have written that off, the dues and whatever else that you would have donated to Music Portland as a business expense. So all is to say is that things get easier when it's a 501c3. So I just bring that up because Leah had mentioned that's what this organization is, and it's just an incentive. That's all I'm going to rant on that. So it's good to donate.
Tim, is there anything else we want to do, talking points before we? So let's see, how do we want to do this? Let's do Q&A, and then we're going to wrap it up with these two guys who are Music Policy Council heroes, are going to talk about what the Music Policy Council's been up to and what the big wins have been lately.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that now or after the Q&A?
We can go to that now.
Okay.
We wanted to, Eben, because you're in City Hall, maybe talk a little bit about what's going on in City Hall in terms of, because we have a new city council, a new government structure, and we've got a champion for music in City Hall in the form of Jamie Dunphy, and being ably advised by Eben. So I thought it would be, and we just had Jamie organized a hearing, and Eben actually organized it. Jamie got the credit on music and the economy, and sort of music's place in the Portland creative economy. And I think it would be great to hear a little bit from Eben about some of that work and some of the vision that he and Councillor Dunphy have for strengthening the music business and the music community here in Portland. So why don't we start with you, Eben?
Hi! All right, I'll do my best. So, hello. So, one of the place has been an organization for some time. It started way back in 2001 as the apple of somebody's eye, and then eventually it was an organization. One of the things that we've gotten, it's the coolest thing we've done together, is elected somebody from the inside of this organization to City Council. Jamie Dunphy lives in Park Rose. He's in District 1, which is East Portland. He is on City Council, and I work for him. Oh, fabulous. Jamie ran, yes, sir.
Oh, you do want that.
Okay.
You thought you were all cool, but.
You see, but actually I'm just a problem. Okay, so Jamie ran on a music and arts policy platform. That is why he is there, music, the arts, and good government. So, we have already passed a long-sought reform to Portland's noise code, which 5 years of advocacy for Music Portland, City Code Title 14A30-010-2020 has been...
That's easy for you to say.
Exactly, has been repealed, which is to say a major tool that was used primarily in gentrifying areas in North and Northeast Portland to target music venues that were serving Black and brown people and those types of musics back in 2016, 2017 era. That is now gone. It cannot be used for that again. So that's great. Round of applause. And there are more things in the works. What we just did, so there's 12 city councilors, and we have a bunch of subcommittees. There is the Arts and Economy Subcommittee. That is what so the reform to the noise code came out of something else, but we went to the Arts and Economy Committee and said, hey, we want you to spend a whole day on the music economy in Portland, the arts and music economy in Portland. What does all of this little stuff that we do, all of this creativity, the people making pedals, the people doing shows, the people throwing events, the people doing synchronization rights out by the airport, what does all that add up to in our community? And it turns out it adds up to a lot of money. It turns out it adds up to a lot of our identity and our vibrancy and how we see ourselves. And once you start talking about people coming out of shows onto the street in neighborhoods after dark, it adds up to public safety as well. We had people at this hearing from as far away as the UK. We had representatives from the UK Music Trust, Music Venue Trust. We had John Wardle, the head of the music office in Australia, who who else did we have? We had Kate Becker from Seattle, Washington, just a little closer. Jim Brunberg, the owner of Mississippi Studios and all those venues in Portland, and of course, Mayor McLaughlin. And at the end of that, the mayor, in a meeting with us, said, we see that music and creative arts are the driver of our, are one of the drivers of our economic recovery and renaissance in Portland. And from manufacturing to sync to artists, we hear you, tell me what you want to do. So we are now in the woodshedding process of putting the other 5 years of work into a set of resolutions and ordinances that we're going to be bringing to council over the course of the next 3 months or so. And ultimately hoping to proclaim Portland as the independent music capital of the United States. This time next year, we'll be saying those words and being like, oh yeah, that already happened, thank you. What are we trying to do with all those things? Let me come out here and say openly, as I think my boss would, this city is expensive to live in. It is expensive to have a creative class in Portland. And the answer to that is social housing. It's public housing. We have to get the rents down. That's why Jamie Dunphy this week is in Vienna, studying social housing with the place in the developed world that has the lowest housing cost burden on its middle class populace anywhere in the world. There has been a resolution for social housing passed 2 months ago, co-sponsored by Councilors Dunphy and Avalos, both from District 1, the working class center of Portland. And we hope to, through utilization of the Portland Housing Bureau over the next 5 to 10 years, really change what the housing stock is in this town and start bending the curve on expense so we can afford to be here and make this place what it is. That being said, we are also developing policies that will protect venues from being pushed out by glass-walled condos and adjacent development to them. You can move next to the cool thing and then it bothers you that it's happening. So we're going to make some rules, borrowing from those friends in the Australia and in the UK to protect against that. We have a raft of small bore regulatory reforms on the way, putting together seasonal noise variances, so small organizations like this can run events all summer long with a single application entry point. Simplifying the permitting process for public events that currently crosses parks, roads, often has to engage with the buildings code if you have to deal with the noise office, and sometimes has to deal with police. Even after the reorganization that we've done, these are in separate service areas of our local government. We want to have a single point of entry, that it is easy to get in, you know how much it's going to cost when you apply, and then you're moving within a week. We're going to bring musician loading zones to every venue in Portland that wants them. And we're going to create a permitting system that makes it affordable to park in the central city if you're an artist creating positive economic impact for the rest of the city. And we are going to be eventually creating an improved, dedicated funding stream to support artists and the creative economy in this town to the best of our ability. We're going to tax streamers if we can. We're going to tax ticketing resellers if we can. We're going to take that money and we're going to put it back into the local ecosystem.
Yay.
All of that is going to take work. Many of those things, you look at them and you say, yeah, that's an obvious, everybody likes that. What are you talking about? And some of those things you're like, I can think of somebody who doesn't want that to happen. There's a range of things. There's a range of things there. And we need your ideas. We need your voice saying like, that's stupid, don't do it this other way. And then when we have the right things that are going before council, we need you in the room there saying, go, go, go. This is what this town is. I know Jamie came, in his political movement, came from this organization, and he's going to be coming right back here to this as the center of the community for ideas, for support, for continuing the movement. So keep showing up. Keep talking to your friends. Keep bringing those ideas back here. Let's share. Let's keep doing stuff.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Evan. Thanks for coming, for being here. Yeah, I want to pass it because you set up a nice segue for Derek, because I think I wanted to ask Derek, because he was one of the folks that testified, to sort of speak to the advocacy issues and the importance of advocacy and how we can support the work that Councilor Dunphy and Eben are doing at City Hall. So you want to speak to that?
Sure. What I spoke about that it was very early morning for musicians. We had to be there at 9 o'clock or something like that.
You didn't have to be
It was,
anywhere.
well, yeah, it was horrifying. Anyway, what I spoke about that morning was educating the city councilors about how it is that music actually comes to be in our community. That you need places to practice your instrument, you need places to rehearse your project, and that this involves making a racket. There are very few of us that what we do can be entirely acoustic. Very few of us that we can just use some magic technological device to make it quieter or somehow silent. I'm a drummer, and that's not a realistic thing. And I also design recording studios. I know what it takes to keep the sound of a drum kit contained, and it's not remotely achievable for the average person trying to make creative work happen in this town, let alone to have an entire band fired up in your garage or your basement or your living room, wherever that is. Then we've got folks creating new content, recording and producing music at home or in a home adjacent business. They were educated effectively, I think, about what it takes to actually do this affordably. And 90% of the time, that means it's not a commercial dedicated place in an industrial neighborhood where we can just make a racket and where it's affordable. So we are asking for accommodations for them to say, hey, we're willing to show up and register ourselves as creators in this community, but we want an accommodation so that we can then be communicating with our neighbors and have a simple mechanism so that for X number of hours on these days over the course of a typical week, 2 or 3 times for 2 or 3 hours or something along these lines, we've got arrangements made where we as musicians get an accommodation where we get to be noisy for a while. And that doesn't mean that we're firing up a full band with the windows and doors open, and it doesn't mean we're doing that any time of the day or night at unpredictable hours for unpredictable durations. Rather the opposite. We are all really good at negotiating these kinds of things with our bandmates, etc. We're also have become good at that with our neighbors. And we want to formalize that and fortify our position in neighborhoods where that might not be particularly well received, and increasingly not well received in certain neighborhoods that change with higher density or folks moving into the neighborhood who might not be particularly enamored with the idea of somebody making a racket. So trying to formalize these kinds of things, making it as simple as possible, it's great for us, but it really was an epiphany for city councilors who just are not doing the math that you can't just show up to a record store and have a record there, and you can't just show up to a live music venue and magically there's a band of people who have just, turns out they're well rehearsed and they're good at what they do, and that has happened somehow somewhere else. That we need this embraced in our city. And I think a lot of us have enjoyed the fact that our neighbors they're willing to accommodate this, but we need it to be more straightforward. I think all of us have probably had various experiences with the cops showing up. And for me, I was 16 years old the first time. They're like, we're here again, we're taking your stuff. And it's an angry neighbor complaining about a racket. So anywhere in that spectrum, we need advocacy and support from our elected officials. We need advocacy and support from each other as a community. And the Music Policy Council and these organizations are trying to knit all of these factors together and get us to effectively cooperate in order to accomplish that kind of change.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Before we do Q&A, it occurs to me that we should talk about membership. Because Music Portland, for those of you who are new here tonight, and I hope this isn't boring you, Music Portland started as a a 501c6 operates like a chamber of commerce or a trade association, and it started as that with paying members, and membership is the heart of the community. There are several things about running a membership organization, as I'm sure Renee who used to be our lovely director of operations, can espouse about, which it's a lot of work to keep on top of, and also especially when you're also running a charitable nonprofit. Renee and Mara, who are our two staff, were running both organizations, and it's a hell of a lot of work, and a lot of that work is overlapping. And you got two boards to manage, you've got two sets of books, you've got, different things happening that don't need to be happening in both places. And it's a lot of effort and time on staff and people. But the membership part of it, it was a paid membership. We had different tiers. We tried a lot of different models for different things. And so membership, we stopped taking money for membership, I think in May. And membership is now free. And it will become something that we're still figuring this out, but it will, basically you can join, and we want more inclusivity. We want people from all over the state to be able to join. And then there will be ways that you can, as a donor of, say, a different tier or something, you can get a discount on, like we're talking about having maybe Portland Music Month turn into also a statewide or regional sort of music convening where there would be professional development and networking and, maybe like
Showcase.
Sound engineer speed dating or something like that. And where people it would be something that we do every once or 2 years, and you would get a discount to that, but anyone could come to that. Those types of things, sort of like OPB or some model. We've got to figure out the model, but some kind of a model where, and so people already are joining, and then they have an option to donate, and lots of people are donating, and it feels really snuggly and great. And they can be, if you join, if you're not a member right now, you can join for free, and you will be listed in our directories. We have a business directory, we have a performer directory, and we, how that looks in the future is, we're figuring that out. We're going to switch to some software that makes it a little easier for somebody that's not as smart as Renee to manage, and and so that, that's what's happening with membership. But I'm assuming that some of you have questions about membership, so don't hesitate to ask that. And any other kind of question prompts that you can think of?
No.
Okay, so we'll repeat. You can just stand up or shout out your question or raise your hand if you have a question.
And you don't even have to have a question if you just want to offer, a comment, an accusation.
Exactly. You can talk about
Experience,
outfits.
about how great your band is. Yeah. Yes, please.
I'm sitting next to Renee right now, and I think we should give her a round of applause.
For those that don't know Renee was our director of operations for 2 years, and really turned around and codified a lot of the infrastructure of our organization and built a lot of awesome community things. Basically was the maven of First Monday, and I'm relying on her a lot to help me navigate how we're going to do this going forward, and was just out doing things in the community and still is doing things in the community, and will always be, hopefully, a part of Music Portland in any way we can get her. But yeah, thank you, Renee. Yeah.
Are there any questions about
Yeah, does
membership?
anybody have any questions?
Any questions of any kind? Any concerns?
Yeah.
Accusations? Yes, in the back, an accusation.
Is there anything with becoming a 501c3 that will stop Music Portland for being able to kind of advocate and stimulate things from an economic perspective? Because that seemed like a really important thing that Music Portland.
Excellent question,
That's an
Cameron.
excellent
And what
question.
we're hearing is, for the most part, no. But as your question suggests, trade associations have a little bit more leeway than a 501c3, charitable organizations. They have a little bit more elbow room they can engage in political advocacy, for example. A 501c3 is more restricted, but even 501c3s can engage in public advocacy. What we cannot do is we cannot engage in partisan work. So we can't pick a side. But if we're talking about noise reform, or if we're talking about strengthening kind of support, for music in Portland or across the city, and if it's a nonpartisan issue like that, then we can have at it.
Yeah.
There are restrictions about like dedication of budget, but we'd have to go a long way before we sort of get anywhere sort of near kind of the limits of that. So we're well within. And it also, if I may, it also sort of speaks to one of the great assets of MusicPortland, and one of the, I think, the kind of the strongest kind of components of this community has been the work of the Music Policy Council. And it's a group of citizen musicians and music professionals and people who care about music, who gather to really take on the nerdy stuff of kind of public policy that benefits the music community. And it's a vibrant, I was first invited to join the Music Policy Council, and then came from there to the board of MusicPortland. And I was so excited to join this community of smart, intelligent, insightful people who work really hard to affect change in this city. And that is something that it's a part of MusicPortland, the C6. We still don't know what's best for the future of that, where it sits or how it sits, or does it stay in the C6 and we just move away, or does it, right now I think what we thought about was maybe it can just stand on its own as a citizens group. But we want to make sure that the fabulous work of the Music Policy Council and that group continue to exist and thrive, and support the work that musicians and politicians and lawmakers across the state are doing. So that's something that's really important for us.
Well, and we can't, yeah. So as a C6, we were able to lobby. You still have to have registered lobbyists and everything. And as C3, we can do like a voter, poll. We can do that kind of stuff, but we can't endorse a candidate. We can't do any lobbying. But the Music Policy Council could if it wasn't us. And so that's where like this sort of fluidity of however this looks needs to be carefully done, so that we have this that sort of legislative advocacy continuing, and then MusicOregon can focus on more like getting the programming and stuff together that allows a lot of that advocacy to actually, see the light of the day in terms of practical application in everybody's lives.
Go ahead.
Okay, we all want to talk.
I just want to add one quick thing. It's easier to get money as a C3 than it is a C6.
I guess to put a fine point on it, basically, as far as I understand, the line is you can, as a charity, a C3, you can say, hey, man, isn't music great, and isn't it great how some noise codes are better for musicians? Wow, I'm here to educate you about that. Yeah. And the moment that you cross the line and say, and you should vote for Jamie Dunphy, who will pass city code, blah, 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 then we have a problem.
Yeah.
But you can come right up to that line and say, this is a great thing, absolutely, and this really matters, and it just so happens there's this guy over here who's trying to do that. It's something very similar for advocacy for the arts economy and the music economy. Sport Oregon is a 501c3, and they're basically out here saying, like, hey, everybody, put your money into the sportswear and outdoors economy in Oregon. And we're going to create programs to bring up young people into that. And we are going to support women and people of color, leading in the business community, in the sports and outdoor community. And what we're not doing is saying, hey, put your money right here. And that's the dividing line.
Yeah.
So there is quite a bit of advocacy and working for these purposes that can be done. It's the explicit work of to this precise end that's the line. And generally speaking, we're on the right side of that.
But we did learn, we did learn from a nonprofit attorney that has been guiding us through this merger process that we actually can do political lobbying work, not for a candidate, not for a partisan affair, but we can do something like we were engaged with Live Nation, where we are opposing things in our community and we're directly engaging the political process as a part of that. And we can do things like actively getting involved with legislation, whether it's at the local level, the regional level, the state level, or the national level. And we are connected as a music policy organization to national and state politicians, as well as our local city council and our county. So what the limit for us as a trade organization, a C6, was nothing along those lines. As a C3, we just need to keep a limit to those activities to about 1/3. That's not a hard number. So it's just roughly less than 1/3 of our time and energy and budget can be expended doing those sorts of things. So it still allows us a lot of opportunity to effectively make change in our community and outwards.
So if you're lobbying more than you sleep, it's a problem.
Yeah, and there's, it's a little bit tough to measure what, I think it's actually 25%, under 25%.
Well,
And
I have
that's
no use
difficult
for
to
the
manage, to monitor, but
Renee has-
specifically, but Cameron, did you get your answer that you wanted, your question answered?
Yeah, the only other aspect I was thinking about was things to stimulate the economy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, right, so this is where like us doing a convening or something, or any kind of professional development stuff, can help people get their businesses off the ground, or like the small business incubator and programming like that can really help. And then grants programs, we could potentially get funding somehow, it's totally possible to get like small business grants for small music business grants to
Right.
help people, get a storefront
Or even just say, we want to support the work that Jamie Dunphy is doing at City Hall. What we can't do is just say, vote for Jamie Dunphy.
Yeah.
But we can say, this is work that we support, we endorse, we think these are good things.
Sure.
So we can engage at a fairly high level.
Yeah.
But
We'll still be focusing on economic development and business development and career development for people within the music industry. That's like at the heart of the whole deal.
So-
Renee, did you have a question?
Not a question, can I say something about that?
Please.
I don't think that anything we did at least in the last 2 years, and maybe, I don't know about before that, maybe Evan can confirm or something, but I don't think that anything we did is not actually okay for a 501c3.
Exactly.
So if you were involved in the last 2 years, we could have been a 501c3 doing all of that. And so, I believe,
Yeah.
Well said.
And another thing I would say is, something cool we did do last year, which I hope we do again in the next election, is we surveyed a bunch of candidates for the city council election. We surveyed them on what their stance on music was, and we asked specific questions about the music, what they thought about certain things in the music community, and then we posted their answers. So no, we did
Right.
not endorse anyone, but you could see what everyone said, and then base your answers from that. So I would love to do that. I think that needs to
That's
happen.
that type of stuff, yeah. And there were a lot of people who didn't do it, which said a lot too. Like they didn't care enough to
Yeah,
fill out the
people didn't
survey.
answer it. Well, they
Yeah, exactly.
They were not, and we wrote that. They did not answer.
Frank,
Can you talk, speculate, predict how not having a membership fee versus and moving towards donations is going to impact?
May I take that on?
Please
Kate?
do.
I think, so, I spent a long time working a membership-based, performing arts market. It wasn't exclusively music, but 70 or 80% of what we did focused on music. So we served about, 400 sort of organizations. And for an association, typically about a third of the revenue comes from membership. And then the next largest or the biggest chunk comes from like convenings and fee-for-service things like workshops and things that you offer. And then there's grants and so on. But if you combine the two organizations, the budgets of the two organizations, which are, let's say, roughly $400,000 in the last fiscal year 2024, the combined budgets of both of them were $400,000. What we generated in dues was $30,000 out of that 400,000. So it's not a huge portion. It's not anywhere close to a third of kind of what we're generating. So, and I think for us as the board, I can't speak for you all as members, but like, can we deliver value? I mean, the dues were low for individual artists. I think they were $25
A year.
a year.
Yeah.
As a agency, a management agency, I paid $250 a year. It wasn't an exorbitant amount, but it wasn't income that we could really count on. It wasn't like we were going to build our budget around $30,000. And there was also questions we would hear from members fairly routinely, like, what exactly am I getting for my dues? So there's this expectation of, you're a stakeholder in the organization, you're putting your money into it, and you want to see something for that. And we had our directory, and we had the gatherings, but the gatherings are all free. Anybody can sort of walk in and put on a
Which
name
is
tag
good.
and join. But it wasn't, we didn't feel like we were delivering sort of the value that folks really needed in that exchange. So we thought, let's just simplify it. And Music Oregon is not a membership-based organization. I mean, members are not, and like, for example, this is getting into the weeds, but in the bylaws of Music Portland, members they vote, they have basic organizational privileges, sort of institutional privileges, and Music Oregon doesn't have any of that. So we still want to engage members. This community is essential to the work that we do. We can't imagine it without all of you. So it's just now a matter of, is a donor model, if we can raise grant support, if we can find other ways, maybe we have fee for service so that we're offering something that's of value to you, that is at a reasonable rate that you will pay for. Like, for example, like for bands, maybe, what's that?
Fiscal sponsorship.
Fiscal sponsorship, absolutely.
Fiscal
Or
sponsorships.
discounts on insurance that you might need. There are things that we might be able to offer all of you that generates revenue to support the organization in lieu of dues. I don't know, Frank,
No, that's good.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest, that's a lot of work for paid staff to be creating opportunities for people. So not everybody realizes this, but Mara, our fearless founder, worked the whole time, and she paid herself, I think, $125 a month for 7 years. And that is a tremendous value for somebody who was like in a VP level, and basically was paying all of us through her labor from her retirement. And it's a musician model. And so we have to be willing to, we have to walk the talk, and also it's just not okay to take advantage of people. If people willingly come to volunteer, that's great. But she was putting in 60-hour weeks and stuff, and she decided to step down, and I think it's going to be really good for her health, and she'll be back and be involved. I think she's planning on coming to the next First Monday. But we need to create an organization that can pay for the work and pay people, just like the people that are going out and playing city sessions. We are paying people. This community needs one of the things the Musicians Union is working on that we are in full support of is a fair wage. What's it called?
Prevailing wage.
Prevailing wage, thank you. And the idea is, and it's tricky because you have a tiny venue that, doesn't make very much money and can't pay you a prevailing wage. How that gets done is still has to be worked out. But there are cities where, in order to do a gig as a musician, you know you're going to be making a minimum amount of money, so that musicians aren't getting screwed and aren't the last person on the chain making any money, and that they have more money to pay an engineer or, all of the other people that help the career go. So it takes money to make money, and it takes money to make an organization sustainable. And there are all sorts of ways that we can serve people better if we aren't limiting our funding. And we can do all the same things. So hopefully.
I also want to say that we also want to sort of be, we understand that we're not the only game in town. There's lots of organizations that are kind of community-based or industry-based that we want to support and kind of uphold them and sort of link arms with them, like Cameron from the Portland Producers Forum. I may have done, and I think, is that you back there, Hunter? And Hunter.
Right,
Bowen,
Hunter, yay!
From the Musicians Union, the local.
And Jeremy Wilson Foundation is going to be our first Monday in November.
So we want to sort of embrace these organizations, work collaboratively with them, and sort of support the work that they're doing, because we see it's kind of a rising tide floats all boats, and that's sort of. And on that note, Hunter, this is your plug to say a few words about what are you organizing tomorrow night?
Yeah, so tomorrow.
You're gonna have to speak a little louder.
I'll try to project as much as possible. Can everybody hear me in the back?
Yes.
So tomorrow, we're having an event that I've put together and I've called the Portland Music Resiliency Expo. The idea for it was initially to do a collaborative event between Music Portland and the local and our freelance group that we've had going on, but with Music Portland in so much flux and with a couple of new ideas on the table, we came up with this concept so that we can funnel people into the various music policy initiatives in town or toward institutions and nonprofits specifically that are aiding musicians specifically and independent music, even more specifically than that. Because like Evan said, we want to be the independent music capital of the country, and if we aren't already that, how can we move toward that even more? So tomorrow at the expo, we'll hear from a few folks that are prominent in the music industry, as well as myself, who's not so prominent. But we'll also have a bunch of tables set up around the venue. It's going to be hosted at our local on 20th and Sandy, starting at 6 p.m. And those tables are going to be for voices like you've already heard tonight, like people from the Jeremy Wilson Foundation, people from the Noise Review or the Noise Ordinance Reform Coalition, from various other initiatives, so that musicians can figure out what can I actually do to get involved with these things directly, and how can I get access to these various nonprofits that are helping working musicians like myself, because obviously as a person working for the Musicians Union, I care about working musicians and their ability to afford what they do to make a good living. Thanks for the shout out for prevailing wage as well. So yeah, if you can make it tomorrow, we start at 6 p.m. at 20th and Sandy. I've got some posters here with me, or you can just take a card of mine. We hope to see you there tomorrow if you've got the time.
Thank you. Thanks, Hunter.
Yeah. Way to go, Hunter.
Any other question? Yes, please.
So moving forward, are you called MusicOregon or Music Portland?
Great question. So Music Oregon will be the 501c3, the sort of the umbrella organization. Grants would go to Music Oregon, and Music Portland will be a program of Music Oregon. So the brand and the identity will not go away. It will stay the same. As we promote things, we'll use the name Music Portland, just as we do now. But the legal entity, the 501c6, will be dissolved. And we'll all sort of migrate, and the boards that we talk about, we're already working as a single board. Those will just get merged in, and the assets will be combined. So we'll operate as Music Oregon, but Music Portland will be a program.
Music Portland is not going away,
Yeah.
but the sort of nuts and bolts of how it works legally are. Does that make sense?
So I could still say I'm a member of Music Portland?
Yes, you
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a little weird because this is like the kind of stuff we have to figure out, because if somebody in Malheur wants to join the Music Oregon as a member, that will be the same membership. So it's kind of we have to figure out that brand-wise what that means. But for right now, membership is basically if you're donating, you're paying Music Oregon, but you're a member of Music Portland. Does that make sense?
For now.
For now. I mean, if you have any suggestions on what would make sense to you in terms of how that could be thought about by somebody, bring it to me, because I would love to. We are really like, just in the infancy of really figuring out the tactical, like, makes sense in your mindness of that. That's my new word, but yeah. Okay,
Yes.
thanks.
Currently, how is Music Oregon funded? Is it like through state-directed funds or private philanthropy? And do you anticipate that changing with this shift?
So it's the grant support that Music Oregon receives is mostly foundation support, but there is some public money. The city of Portland is a very generous donor of us. So we have funding from Oregon Community Foundation. We have funding from Travel Portland and Travel Oregon from time to time. Prosper Portland has been also very generous, even though at times we've crossed swords with Prosper. But they, over the years, they have been a really important supporter of the organization, and we don't really see that changing, although there's some changes in leadership there. But those are sort of the major contributors. I think one of the things about sort of taking the organization statewide that we can hope to attract some funders sort of beyond Portland, for example, the Ford Family Foundation, which is based in Roseburg. And, somebody else was suggesting Otson Foundation. There are some other foundations sort of in other parts of the state that might have an interest in sort of joining us, as we extend kind of programs, especially like EchoFund. Taking EchoFund statewide could be huge, but that's going to really depend on donors. So I don't imagine, I would like to think that, in Oregon, we just today.
Yes. Oh,
Just
right.
today,
We have big news.
We got a
Big news.
$25,000 grant for capacity building from the Oregon Cultural Trust, which is the sister organization for the Oregon Arts Commission. And I think that, I think as we make these changes, we can expect to sort of get more support. I mean, it's public funding being what it is. We don't expect a lot of funds from the Oregon Cultural Trust or the Oregon Arts Commission, but I think we should be able to count on regular support from those organizations and those institutions. I mean, it remains to be seen what happens with the NEA and sort of public
Right.
funding on a larger national level.
The nonprofit world's crazy.
Yes,
right
ma'am.
now.
So if you make a donation now to Music Oregon, is that qualify as an Oregon Cultural Trust?
Yes, it does. Excellent question. Yeah. And does everybody know about the Oregon Cultural Trust, how it works? So you make a donation, and then, whatever you contribute, you make a matching donation to the Cultural Trust, and then you get a tax credit on that amount that you donated to the Cultural Trust. And you can just literally just take that right off your income taxes that are due to the state of Oregon. So it's a beautiful thing, and it's becoming a larger and larger player. And I know that Derek is talking to folks down in Salem about how we can leverage that work too, in new and innovative
You
ways.
mean
Evan.
I think the limit is $1,000, right?
Yeah,
It's currently at least, I think it's $1,000, up to $1,000.
Yeah. But it's still, it's been a very successful kind of program of tax credits for the state of Oregon.
Also, to follow up on your question, I think it's clear that part of the transition that the board intends to make as we go through this combination of the two organizations and into a 501c3 away from a membership-oriented, dues-oriented organization is that we will be pursuing more private funding, both from corporate and individual sponsors out there. So that's something that will be a new source, in part because we'll have more staff time to put into that.
There are a lot of legacy strategies and philanthropic strategies that folks can take advantage of donating to 501c3s. So while there may be limits to some organizations, there are, a good amount of retirees that have, sounds so nerdy, but they have required minimum distributions, and they can do what's called a QCD, which is they're not taxed on their distribution. So if they're philanthropic anyway, or if they're charitable, they can, they can put their money toward an organization like Music Oregon. So long story short, it's the C3 is a great mechanism to receive income and to fill the coffers. So that way we can have a growing, robust organization where we have more paid staff. We have the ability to eventually offer benefits. There's so much that can be done. The growth could be exponential. But all this to say is there are many, many incentives to get private funding outside of grants and government money. So,
Yeah, and guess what? Music is a big part of the resistance.
Yeah.
So we need people to be, we need musicians, we need the music community to be alive and robust to make it through these weird times that we have. And
We also, on that note, too, we also, and this I know is something that Derek feels sort of passionately about, we also see, and I know that Eben's working on this with Jamie at City Hall, that we really see that music plays a vital role in the redevelopment of downtown Portland.
big time.
That we really see that music has a lot to offer the solution and to reimagining downtown, and that there's opportunities to create live workspace, studio space, performance space, rehearsal space, kind of in these empty buildings that are sort of downtown. We really see that that all of you, we're all part of the solution here.
Yeah.
And that's something to advance kind of new models for the city.
Yeah.
So.
I think that is your passion project, right, Derek? Yeah.
Speaking of the Oregon Cultural Trust, one of the ways that something like that can work is the Oregon Cultural Trust uses tax credits to encourage certain activities to happen in a city. So, for instance, in the downtown, where we're in great need of revitalization, artists have always been a part of fixing urban decay. And what we're trying to do is pull those same levers here in Portland through affordable housing and affordable live workspace for artists and specifically musicians for us, is that we would be working with the Oregon Cultural Trust to fund projects downtown to then therefore have 24/7 eyes on the street. It's a part of security and vitality for that community. We would be the folks replacing the office workers who have largely vacated downtown, supporting those small businesses, convenience stores, and small restaurants, coffee shops, et cetera, that are now conspicuously without their customer base. And we would be down there saying, hey, it's not just okay to be here, it's great to be here. And our friends and colleagues would be down there collaborating with us. And we are leading folks to areas of the city that at this point, they're having a tough time getting anybody to come down there ever at all.
Very good. Any final questions? Yes.
I have a question. We have Music Oregon and Music Portland, and there's all this problem about how are we going to do these two names and stuff. It seems to me it should all just be called Music Oregon, unless there's some reason you want to retain the name. If everything's really going to be under Music Oregon, this one unit, why don't you just say, hey, we changed our name, we're still the same, we do all the same stuff, now we're called Music Oregon.
Well, this is the thinking, and we're open, to discussion, but Music Portland is has the greater strength in terms of being known within the community, the music community, and that's nationally as well as internationally. And there's a lot to be said for that in terms of getting doors to open and resources available to you that we don't want to just, toss aside with a rebrand into Music Oregon. And also, if we think of Music Portland as a program that then can spend, and like I was saying, there could be Music Bend or all of these other things that are like affiliated. And if we can take some of what we've done with Music Portland and kind of codify it so that other places around the state have sort of a resource catalog, if you will, that they can use tools, forms, templates, ideas that they can use to create their own community chapter kind of thing, then that's one of the reasons that Music Portland is the pilot project. So that's one reason.
Bruce in the back?
More concretely to your question, one of the biggest reasons that we are reserving the moniker Music Portland is because there is a dream in the works to create a public-private agency here in Portland. And Eben, do you want to talk about this a little bit?
Sure.
I'll pass it off to Eben, but the idea is that would be called Music Portland, and that is a completely separate entity that would be a partnership between the music community and the city, much in the way other of these existing partnerships, for instance, between the development community and the city, and that's Prosper Portland, for example.
What he said. There was an earlier comment about the division between charitable activities and overtly business development, economic development activities. Now, of course, Music Oregon as a 501c3 can do most of that stuff. However, there is an interest in an entity similar to sort of a single source standalone agency, similar to how Prosper Portland operates, that is working for the music community. Travel Portland is a similar idea. And Venture Portland was an entity within Prosper Portland that's now been brought back into it. But basically, a little umbrella and its own budget within the sort of the one-step circle outside of formal city bureaucracy. That's whose job it is to economically develop the music economy in this town. And we tried to get money for that in this last budget, and you might have heard what the last budget was like. We were not successful there. We got some money for some other things. We got money for storefront activations downtown. We got money for a pilot program to activate unused downtown spaces and turn them into studio spaces. There's 10 of those that are going to be piloted over the course of the next fiscal year, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We didn't get the money for the whole music agency. So the first, but when we do, that will be called Music Portland, and it'll be rad.
I want to go back to Bruce. Thank you for that question, Michael.
But, and also just to clarify, an agency is different than an office. So, in the city. So an agency is basically like, we don't have the staff or desire to actually do all this work. You guys already know what you're doing. So here's a bunch of money that we're going to have you manage for us as the city, and we oversee it, but you guys do this work better than we do. So you're under the purview of the city, but you aren't technically a bureau of the city. Does that make sense? Am I saying that correctly? Yeah, okay. What was the?
Now Bruce.
Yes, Bruce.
Your question triggered a reminder for me. At one point, we had been talking about bringing Vancouver into this whole program. And, you know, it's a different state, but it's our metro area, and so I was wondering if there's been any conversations continue about that.
We haven't recently, because we sort of have our hands full, but I think it is important to look at sort of the metro area as a kind of basically a sort of one economic kind of market. You know, it's one large urban market with a river and a border, but that doesn't mean we have to sort of draw a line there. Like with EcoFund this year, we made some changes. We made some changes in sort of the policy so that because Music Oregon was able to put $20,000 kind of its own resources to join the city funding. The city funding is restricted to the city of Portland, but now we have $20,000. So if an artist is based in Vancouver and they're working in Portland, they could actually apply. So we've made it that far, but we haven't made it sort of all the way into really looking at the wider market and sort of talking, to city agencies there about sort of possible support. But I think that's a good reminder.
And
I think the reason I say it is if there's anything that has to be done now that would facilitate moving forward, it's worth taking.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And Bruce is a member of the Music Policy Council. Sherry Jameson is also a member of the Music Policy Council. She comes out of the nonprofit management world and is a performer, etc. Sherry lives in Vancouver and has been a real anchor for the Music Policy Council to be actively engaged in.
And the music census.
Right, for Music Portland.
For Music Oregon.
For Music Oregon, pardon me. Anyway, Sherry has been our key contact there in that community, so we are already actively engaged with that community, and she is very excited about continuing to pursue this idea of the Portland metro area not being geographically limited to Oregon alone. And I think it's safe to say that there are important existential questions for this future agency to consider in terms of saying, hey, how do we do this? Because our metro area doesn't end at the Columbia River, and Vancouver is growing. I'm getting signs from Leah that maybe it's time to.
No, I'm just wondering, like, how does that benefit independent venues in Oregon? Because, like, we're all in crisis here, and so why does bringing Vancouver in help us?
Well, I think Jim Brunberg would have a terrific answer for that, being the master herder of the cats, is that all of us, it's my understanding, I work with venues a lot, that all of us independent venues benefit when we work together. So that there are people in Vancouver that are part of our metropolitan community and supporting our scene. I know I'm playing shows in Vancouver and playing shows in Portland, so I need those venues. I want to play for those folks. I want them to show up to my shows. And I think it's a part of our music economy, even though it's across the border. But it's a complicated metric to kind of try to decide where do we end and they begin. And so far, there's a lot of voices that I hear crying out, saying we need more of the we and less of the they.
Well, and it actually potentially opens up more funding for.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I think we're going to bring it to a close, but a few housekeeping things. Kate, do we know where our next First Monday is going to be?
Not yet.
We don't. So read the newsletter, and we'll share that information.
Yes, okay, yeah, so there are a couple of housekeeping things. Can I?
Yes, please.
Actually, Evan, did you want to say one more thing?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I missed the cue.
Oh, it's okay, always. Y'all are aware of the Research Center in Beaverton?
Yep.
And y'all are aware of some of the community theaters up in Vancouver that used to produce work at the Winningstad downtown and now produce in Vancouver. It's expensive to produce your theater or your music in theaters in Portland, and people are going elsewhere. In Vancouver, they are receiving public money and having the advantage of lower rents. At the Research Center in Beaverton, there is a vehicle rental tax that was passed by the city of Beaverton that expressly funds that theater. We have a VHRT in Portland that's operated by Multnomah County that feeds all of our various spectator venues, but the county is currently trying to claw that money back in order to spend more of it on public safety, trash cleanup, and policing. We can't allow ourselves to open up a little plug in the middle of the floor and let the middle go away, as the resources simply go to the periphery. And we need to be talking with each other about how to do that, especially as artists leave the center city because they can't afford to be here and move to the exterior as well. We are one big community, and thinking intelligently about how to do that and bring everybody up, I think, is the way to go.
Great, thank you.
Excellent.
Well said.
Okay, the housekeeping stuff is, our newsletter is kind of re-evolving. It's only going out once a month nowadays. If you work in if you have a venue or a studio or a sync licensing company or anything like that, and you are hiring, email kate@musicoregon.org, and we can throw that into our newsletter. If you have an event coming up that like basically is a community-oriented event, not a concert and stuff like that, but a community-oriented event or a fundraiser or something, we will consider putting that in there.
Story ideas?
And story ideas, if you want to write an article or an op-ed, we're thinking about putting that kind of stuff in there. And getting just a lot more sort of community involvement in that. And also, if you have an event that needs for social media and you have graphics, we don't have to create a new graphic for it. For the most part, we'll put that out on our social media. I am figuring out what we're doing for next month for our first Monday. But in November, it looks like we're going to do, heading into the holidays, we're going to do mental health and wellness and body. Like we're thinking that we might be able to get a body postural person there to talk about, performance and holding your body correctly so you don't get wrecked. And then also just mental health, not like heading into the holidays and gigging, maybe singing, White Christmas 74 times or something like that. So that's November, and that's a soft, you guys, for you only, because I haven't got the venue yet. Any other things that we know? And so please, please, please put something on the board back there. If there's something that you'd like to see happen, or email us and let us know, like, this is something that I want to happen. We really are trying to put together a lot of ideas of things and understand what the community needs and wants from us, so that we can be more of a dot connector on the regular and create systems for that to be easy for people to find each other.
I want to thank everybody, Kate and Anthony, Evan, Derek, and thank you, all of you. Thank you, Leah, for having us. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, you guys.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
All right. Nice.